ooh, that just struck a nerve. I couldn't have put those words like that together. Hey loves, it's Chellbee. If this is your first time here, welcome. And if you're a returning subscriber, thank you so much for coming back for another video. I am Chellbee, the blogger behind Chellbee.com, and today I am here as usual sharing my Thursday thoughts on faith with you guys. Today I'm actually going to be sharing 3 of my favorite books for 2019. I know the year is coming to an end, so I figured I would go ahead and share the books that I've read this year and tell you a little bit about what I thought about the books. So one of the first faith-related books that I read was Kingdom Woman. It took me a long time to read. I want to say it took me over 6 months. There are just points in the book or chapters in the book that I didn't necessarily relate to as much as I did to others, and so I would put it down and I would kind of forget about it, so it took me a long time to read this. But I really enjoyed this book overall. It taught me a lot about like faith, womanhood, and then it also taught me a lot about the different women that are in the Bible. He made a really good, I think he put forth a lot of effort in making sure to try to share as many stories about women in the Bible as possible. Even if those women didn't necessarily get a name, there were still so many different scriptures that were shared about women in the Bible. And I think as women sometimes, you know, I personally, I'm not going to speak for everybody, but you know, sometimes you feel a little bit left out because a lot of the people that we hear about their stories, like most often and are talked about the most, are men from the Bible. And so just being able to see that, you know, we're in there too, was helpful. And I would say, like, overall, this book, I think it's a great foundational book, especially if you're like new in your spiritual journey. I think you would enjoy it for that reason. I would say my favorite chapter, which I've talked about on the channel before, and I'll make sure to put a link below to the video, was the chapter on Kingdom Woman excellence. And it talks about how God doesn't measure us and compare us to others. You know, when he looks at us and judges us, it's based on what he knows we're capable of. So excellence isn't about perfection. And so that was definitely one of the like standout chapters to me, which is why I made a video on it. But yeah, so I really enjoyed this book. I did not read his daughter's portion, Crystal. Unfortunately, I just skipped over it because after I read maybe the first and second chapters of her section, I just wasn't necessarily interested in what her section brought to the book. So I just started to skip over it. I will say at the time when I was reading this, I was not a mom yet, and so I just kind of I would just skip it. And for me, like in my like spiritual journey and studies, I just tend to lean towards, when I'm looking for books and encouragement and that kind of thing, I tend to lean towards more scripture-based, you know, lessons and stories than than people's personal stories, if that makes sense. Because Tony Evans, or Dr. Tony Evans, because he is a doctor, he doesn't share a lot of personal stories in the book. It's just more elaborating and talking about fundamental things for women in areas in our life, and how it relates to scripture and how we can see those examples lived out in the scripture. And so I appreciated that a whole lot, and it taught me a lot, and it kind of magnified some of the things I already read, to be honest. And I think that's probably why I gravitate and recommend this book so much, because I don't know how I don't have any other words to put to it besides to say that it's just a life lesson type book with reference to scripture. I don't know how else to describe it. I hope that makes sense. This one is probably a little bit this is different for me. This is 6 years, because I don't want to get the title wrong. 6 years and a quarter way through. This is actually a fictional book, which I can't remember the last time I read a fiction book, to be honest. She has such a pretty cover. And it's by Cassandra Brissoy. Ooh, I hope I'm saying your name right. She actually contacted me via email because she found my blog and she just wanted me to read her book. And I told her, like, I really don't know if I can because I'm like struggling to manage motherhood and I don't know if I can get through your book, but thank you so much, and you know, send it and I'll try my best. And when I finally sat down to like start reading it, I couldn't put it down. Like, my husband was like, what are you looking at? Like, what are you doing? Because she had sent me an e-version and I asked her to send me a physical version because I wanted to make sure I showed how pretty of a cover this is in this video. But it's such a good book. Like, I literally can still visualize the book right now, and every time my daughter plays with her Elmo toy, I think about this book because she kept playing the Elmo songs every time I was reading this book. So like, I love this book. I was really thinking about it last night. I don't know why, but I love this book. It was just such, be careful. It was such a great story, and I think probably one of the reasons that I love it is because the main character, Leah, she actually reminded me of myself, like a younger version of myself. Didn't go through exactly what she goes through in the book, but the overall theme of the book is something I feel like most women go through. You know, Leah, you laughing. Leah is just one of those beautiful women who she knows God. She knows God. She grew up knowing God. But she loses herself. You know, she has all this ambition and all these dreams, and then she ends up finding herself in this dead-end job, unhappy, and somebody comes along and tells her that they have this great opportunity for her, and she just gets distracted and she gets consumed by the idea of, she lets the idea of her goals literally consume her, and she almost kind of loses touch with her morals and her values. And I can relate to that. Like, I definitely went through that. And I think most of us go through that. And then when we find our way back to God, we kind of look back on our past self and we're like, what in the world were you thinking? Like, what was happening, girl? So for that reason, I really, really relate to the main character. But I loved her story. Like, when I was done, I was like, girl, I want to read more. Like, is there something else coming? So she did say she's writing a second book to continue Leah's story, and I'm looking forward to reading it for sure. So this is definitely, like, if you want to turn off the TV for a little bit, because girl, I turned my TV off for like a week because it took me I think it took me less than a week to get through this book because I was reading it morning, noon, and night. Like, literally, my child was doing Lord knows what, and my nose was all in this book. Seriously, my nose was all in this book. Like, I was like, girl, play with your toys, because I need to read this book and see what's gonna happen. Like, for real, I really was. But it was such a good book. It was very entertaining. Like, definitely a page turner for sure. And the author is very sweet. I appreciate her so much for just reaching out to me and sharing her beautiful writing. And before I forget, because I wrote down a lot of the quotes from the book because I loved I loved a lot of them, but there was a few of them that was like, oh, you know how you read something and you be like, oh, that just struck a nerve. I couldn't have put those words like that together. This is just one of the quotes, and I said that I might in the future write a blog post. Don't hold me to it because I've been slacking with writing lately. So to share like a more detailed version of my thoughts on her book. But for sure I want to share these quotes. What you talking about? You trying to contribute to the video? The possession of faith doesn't mean the absence of hardship. There will always be heartache, but faith makes you the beneficiary of a promise to always make it through. And if you allow yourself to be led, you'll come out better than you went in. Like, girl. That's how I felt when I read that. That's exactly what my brain was like. Ooh, like, I don't know. I don't know. I really enjoyed the book. I'm not getting paid to mention this, like in no form, shape, or way. I literally just want to support the author by sharing this book in today's video, because it truly is a really good book, and it reminded me that how much I miss reading. Like, I enjoy reading books, and I actually really enjoy reading fiction books. Like, I just love a good story. And I did not really, to be honest, I never realized that Christian fiction was even a thing. So when I read it, it just reminded me that I really need to get back into finding good books, like fiction books, for me to read, so that I can just keep reading, because reading is good for you. It just is. It's good for you. Yeah, it's a good book. If you're looking for a fiction book that is like based in today's times and relatable, you definitely want to get this book. I don't want to give too much of the story away, but it's definitely a page turner. Like I said, Leah is a relatable young woman going through something that most women go through, and that's just the kind of journey and struggle to find yourself and find love and still hold on to your faith and all of that. So the third book, hi baby, the third book is Fever Ant. I have the deluxe version, so it looks a little bit different from the cover you usually see. I love this book. Love this book, if you cannot tell by all the highlighting. Yeah. And it has little prayer cards. I'm assuming that it's in the other version of the book too. Hopefully. Yeah. It has little prayer cards in the back that you can tear out and write your prayers in. And even though I think that the prayer cards are really cute, it just didn't work for me because they're too small. They're too small. The prayers that I was writing was way too long, and I just could not get everything on there. So I had to use my prayer wall, which I ended up creating because of this book. And I will try to remember to link the video to the prayer wall tutorial below so that you can create your own digital prayer wall if you are like me and have like really long prayers and you want to keep them on your phone so that you can read them when you need them. But anyways, so this book for me, like, I really wanted this book, and my mother-in-law got it for me. Thank you so much, Mama S. I really wanted this book because I wanted help with prayer. I just felt like there was, like, my prayer life, I felt like was lacking. I felt like it could be improved. And I heard about this book. I have watched a few reviews on YouTube, and what I heard just intrigued me, and it didn't disappoint. I appreciate the way that she broke down some of the main areas that we as women struggle with, like focus, like focusing on our prayer life. I read the book in about 2 or 3 weeks. Probably took me only about 2 weeks to read the book. I read it pretty quickly. In less than a month, I read the book. And then after I was done reading the book, it probably took me about a week to write out all my prayers. Like, I was really serious about writing a prayer for each section that she addressed, even though I didn't necessarily feel like all of the areas she addressed were like problems for me necessarily. I just wanted to create like a foundational prayer for each area so that if the problem ever comes up, I already have it written out. I would say probably the most beneficial chapter that I enjoyed reading was the hurt chapter. And not to say that like that I'm super hurt and I have all this pain, but I just like the way that, oh baby, be careful. I like that she really challenges you to like forgive, to be forgiving and understand the importance of forgiveness. And I think that that's something that isn't necessarily talked about enough. And she also kind of gives like tactics in a way for like how you can work to forgive and how you can know if you are truly forgiving people. And so I appreciated that, because people are always talking about forgiveness, but they're not necessarily always giving you the tools you need to forgive. And I felt like even though I may not have had like the tools I need, at least I knew that it was an area I need to work on, and I could ask God to give me what I need, you know, to be forgiving. And so I appreciated that chapter a whole lot. Before I forget, the best part part about the book is the fact that at the end of each area or section in the book, at the ends of each area or section in the book, she gives you scriptures that, you know, may help you with, that could help you with writing your prayers. Not to say that it's every scripture in the Bible, but she gives you enough scriptures to where you should be able to find at least one scripture that relates and resonates and that you can use to write a prayer. I enjoyed the book. I feel like it really transformed. I don't want to say transformed because it didn't teach me anything that I didn't necessarily already know, but it elaborated on some things that I knew, and it reminded me of some things that I needed to be reminded of. You know, there is a point in the book that, besides the hurt chapter, that stood out. Oh my goodness. And it just like every sentence I read in the pressure section, I was like, woo. I needed that. Woo, yes. That's how it was. Like, I needed that. Like, oh my goodness. So I'm like one of those people who I can be considered like a workaholic. Like, I can work and work and work. I'm a workhorse. I can go all day, 12, 15 hours a day, every day, and it will not bother me any. And I'll be happy to do it. And she talks about kind of how busyness is sometimes Satan, like keeping us busy so we are distracted from God. So we're distracted from creating that relationship with God. And it just reminded me like why I needed to just bring it down, you know, why I needed to calm down, take some stuff off the schedule and make time to spend time with God. Like, why? Not that I wasn't, but I wasn't doing it the way that I knew that I should be doing it. Like, I wasn't daily Bible studying. I was doing like 3 days a week, and I was like, oh no, whatever's on that schedule, it can go away. We got to get back to Bible studying every day because I need it. You cracking up? But those are like the 3 books that were a blessing to me this year, and I'm sharing them in the hopes that maybe they'll be a blessing to you. So I will make sure to leave the links to the books below. I'll also leave the link to the Kingdom Woman Excellence chapter review that I did, and I'll leave a link to the prayer wall tutorial video that I did below, along with a link to the blog post for today, because I'm sure there is some blog post that I have written that relates to today. Oh, I had a bonus book that I wanted to share because I never talk about my book enough. I'm sorry. Shameless plug. Shameless author plug. You laughing at mommy? My faith journal is my 4th book that I used in 2019, and this one is brand new. It's gonna be the next one I use because I am on this. I have gone through 2, so I'm on my 2nd one, and I'm almost done with it. So this will be the next one that I open up to go ahead and start writing in it. But yeah, so my faith journal is what I use to Bible study in. I get questions about it all the time on Instagram every time I talk about Bible study, and you guys ask me about it occasionally on here. This is what I use to Bible study. I don't Bible study ever without it because I just can't. I need it, okay? I need it. So this is what I use to Bible study. I love it. I use the SOAP method. I will be doing a how to Bible study video soon to try to make sure I am just more detailed with how I use the SOAP method. But yeah, so this is what I would say is my 4th book of 2019 and 2020 and 2018 and 2017, because I've been using it for like 3 years now. Ever since I created it, I've been using it. And to be honest, I created it for myself. You know, like I created it because I needed something that I could use while I was Bible studying. That's why I created it. So yeah, this was book number 4, just a bonus. As always, you guys, please make sure you subscribe. Don't forget to hit that like button and share this video if it was helpful. If there is someone in your life that you think needs some ideas for what to read next, make sure to share this video with them. As always, you guys, be blessed and stay safe.